Welcome to Movie Speeching. Spoilers ahead. Watch out and take good care. Death Race is the name of the movie. Please like and subscribe to get everyday updates. 2012, the American economy collapses. Unemployment hits record tall and wrongdoing rates winding out of control. The jail framework comes to breaking point, so private enterprises presently run all restorative offices for benefit. Terminal Island Prison streams an arrangement of cage battles live on the web, and detainees battling to the passing gotten to be a rating sensation. Be that as it may, the gathering of people before long gets to be bored and requests more, and that's how the passing race is born, a pier where prisoners race each other to the passing in extraordinarily altered cars and arrange to win their flexibility. In today's race, there are as it were two cars cleared out. One is driven by veiled prisoner Frankenstein and his pilot Case, and the other is Frank's most seasoned match, Machine Weapon Joe. Both of them are nearing the wrap-up line and prepared to do anything to win, but for a few reasons, the weapons in Frank's car aren't working. He extemporizes by discharging the car's back shield, which hits Joe and wins straight to the point of few fleeting advantage, but Joe hasn't given up however and still has the hostile use. Case knows Joe will annihilate them and needs out, but straight to the point denies to let Joe win, so Case discharges herself out of the car as straight to the point crosses the wrap-up line at the same time Joe shoots it, winning however detonating within the prepare. A few days afterward, mechanical laborer and ex-convict Jensen Ames finds out the steel process he works at his closing, and they aren't even paying the specialists the total sum they owe him. As the laborers begin getting disturbed, the anti-riot police arrive and start beating them up at the littlest of incitements, and seeing his associates get harmed causes Jensen to hop into the shred and beat a few cops in return. Night has as of now fallen by the time he makes it domestic. After saying hi to his spouse, Jensen checks on his infant upstairs, uninformed that a concealed criminal is taking this chance to break into the house and slaughter his spouse. When Jensen returns to the kitchen, the man thumps him out, puts the kill weapon in Jensen's hand, and takes off after making a shooting motion with his gloved hand. Jensen wakes up minutes afterward to discover the police capturing him for the kill of his spouse. 6 months afterward, Jensen is exchanged to Terminal Island Jail, where he is gotten by Protect Ulrich, who splashes him with solidifying water, permits another cop to hit him, and takes him to a cell with 3 other detainees who intend to defeat him up. Ulrich comes to check on him, needing to appreciate seeing him in trouble, but Jensen could be a great warrior and has thumped all his cellmates out. The following morning, Jensen goes to the Chow corridor to have breakfast, where is being watched by Coach, heavy armament specialist and records, who recognizes Jensen as a previous record holder driver that murdered his career. The corridor abruptly falls noiseless when Pachenko and his companion approach Jensen to incite him, to begin with by spitting on his nourishment, at that point calling him a lady killer and a kid abuser. Jensen responds by bouncing on Pachenko to defeat him up, but they're before long hindered by the cops, who take Jensen to see Claire Hennessy, the jail superintendent. She's seen Jensen's record and knows he's a phenomenal driver, so she makes him an offer. She needs him to end up the unused Frankenstein. The genuine one kicked the bucket on the operation table after his final race, but no one knows this however, so anybody may supplant him beneath the cover. Straight to the point was an audience's favorite and a very inspiring legend, which is why Hennessy doesn't need the world to know he's dead. She needs the legend to continue and bring back the appraisals, which have definitely fallen since the genuine straight to the point kicked the bucket. The rules say that in case you win 5 races you gain your flexibility, so Jensen would as it were got to win 1 more since Frankenstein as of now had 4 beneath his belt. Jensen is still uncertain approximately conceivably gambling his life for this, but Hennessy undermines him with singular imprisonment on the off chance that he doesn't acknowledge so he can't tell anyone her secret. Jensen has no other choice but to go at the sighted. A short time later, he's taken to the prison's auto shop, where he's presented to Coach and his men, who are the mechanics in charge of Frankenstein's car and will direct Jensen through the essentials. Each group has its possessed pit, and no one makes a difference each other. There's moreover a mammoth shop where Hennessy has been building something in mystery for a month. The as it were ones that will know Jensen is the unused Frankenstein are his group and exceptionally few watches, since Hennessy's control over the jail is supreme. At that point Coach appears him the car he'll be driving, a modified Mustang V8 Fastback. It comes with an assortment of both protective and hostile contraptions, but it doesn't get stacked with ammo until race day so that detainees can't utilize it to undertake to elude. It's incomprehensible to do so besides, since the jail is on an island, so the as it were way out is through a little bridge that would get swarmed with police cars and helicopters at the primary sign of jailbreak. Once Jensen is familiar himself with the car, he and the group proceed their chat at the prison's backyard. The race has 3 stages. During the primary 2 he must attempt to induce rid of as numerous adversaries as he can, and amid the third one, the key is speed to form it to the wrap-up line. All drivers tally with a pilot companion, which are young ladies brought from the women's office. The one special case to this run the show is Joe, who favors to have an individual group part as navigator rather than a girl because he goes through through them so quick, it makes the group of onlookers queasy. Records begins telling Jensen around the foremost critical drivers at that point, who are all within the yard with them. There's 14K, a Triad Part and MIT graduate, Hector Grimm, a certified sociopath that adores Hennessy, Slovo Pachenko, pioneer of the Aryan Brotherhood in the prison, and Travis Colt, a disrespected ex-NASCAR whiz. Their talk is abruptly hindered when Joe and his group come over to offended Jensen and take off a message for Frankenstein saying this race is as it were between the two of them. At the minute, a van brings back some detainees that have been doing work detail, and Jensen takes note something unconventional on their wrists. They have GPS following bracelets, and seeing them makes him realize the man that killed his wife was wearing one as well. When the day for the primary race organized at long last comes, Jensen is given Frank's dress, cover, and indeed his ring to wear, and his insignificant nearness brings back all the watchers the appear had misplaced. Coach tells him not to conversation to the other drivers since straight to the point didn't, it was portion of his mystique, but he's permitted to take off his cover interior of the car since the windows are made of reflected glass and Case moreover knows the mystery. Whereas getting ready, Jensen inquires her what she's in jail for, and she admits having slaughtered a cop for being an awful spouse to her. The race begins a minute afterward, and since weapons don't activate until the moment of 3 laps, the beginning isn't exceptionally savage, in spite of the fact that the drivers still attempt to push each other off the track. Much obliged to Case's knowledge of the area, it's simple for Jensen to go head-to-head with Joe at the exceptionally front, overseeing to pass him into to begin with put when Case focuses out an easy route he can take. It's at that point that Hennessy turns on the shield and weapons, which are sewer vents on the ground that a driver needs to go over with all 4 wheels to enact their car contraptions. Before long there's open fire on the track, and when Hennessy actuates the passing heads as well, Grimm murders a minor driver by pushing his car against it. He moreover causes Joe to drop behind after shooting oil at his car, but he loses the race when 14K pushes him off track with a rocket and Joe runs him over. In the interim, Jensen oversees to actuate the weapons, but the machine weapon gets stuck, so Case gets on the hood of the car to settle it, causing the others to concentrate their bullets on her. Jensen's abilities permit him to avoid them all in spite of the fact that, and Case returns safely to the passengers situate a short time later. Jensen takes a defense sewer vent from Colt, but because it happened to Frank, none of his defense frameworks will work, and the rear shield won't survive much longer. Fortunately, Jensen considers of a range on the spot. He makes Case unfasten the napalm and sit on his lap, so he can dispatch her chair with the napalm on it. It's Colt's car that gets hit, and presently that it's covered with napalm. Case throws the car's lighter at it, lighting it on fire and getting him off the race. With Colt gone, Jensen goes head-to-head with Joe once more, but he is abruptly occupied by Pachenko, who makes the same hand motion the man that murdered his spouse made at him some time recently clearing out. Joe takes advantage of this and pushes Jensen's car back, causing him to come final, whereas Pachenko gets to begin with put. 3 drivers are dead, and 6 stay for the moment organized. After the race, Coach and his men check the car and take note the contraptions are working legitimately, so it doesn't clarify why they wouldn't enact when they had to. Jensen goes to see Hennessy to tell her he won't race any longer since he knows Pachenko murdered his spouse, and all this has been a setup to outline him, so she's seen get a modern driver to supplant Frankenstein. She doesn't concede to it, but she does appear him a picture of his girl and the cultivate domestic she's gone to, reminding Jensen that he ought to play along on the off chance that he needs to see his girl once more. Not being able to do anything approximately it, Jensen goes back to the yard, where he chats with Coach and inquires him why he doesn't wear a number. Coach clarifies he is actually not a detainee any longer. He qualified for parole 3 a long time prior, but he couldn't bring himself to cross the door. The world had changed as well much, and he favored the recognition of the races. He too doesn't accept Jensen murdered his spouse. Afterward within the evening, whereas working on the car, Jensen sees Pachenko passing by and chooses to take after him to his pit, where he gets captured by Pachenko's team. He punches Jensen 1 or 2 of times, sometime recently getting an overwhelming device to crush his head, not caring in case he has Hennessy's security, but he's ceased by Records, who cuts him on his back with a right. Jensen takes advantage of the diversion to seize a metal shard from the ground and cut his captor. At that point he thumps him and his companion out, sometime recently going after Pachenko. He punches him, tosses him around, and hits him with different boxes until Pachenko concedes Hennessy made him murder his spouse and Ulrich was the one to require him there. When Jensen gets prepared to slaughter him in exact retribution, Ulrich appears up with another protect and stops the battle. The following day, right sometime recently the moment organized of the race starts, Pachenko prods Jensen by making the same hand signal at him. Be that as it may, Jensen doesn't drop for the incitement. In truth, he begins driving gradually on reason and takes a burro so he can conversation to Case in private. He ponders on the off chance that she murdered Frank because he finds it suspicious that the car's contraptions failed 2 races in a push, and he debilitates her to expel her off the car on the off chance that she doesn't reply. Case admits having sabotaged Frank's raised weapons since Hennessy would compensate her with her flexibility. The objective was never to murder straight to the point, in spite of the fact that was a mischance caused by him still attempting to win with no weapons. Hennessy's goal was to create him lose to keep him in jail, dashing for the open. Presently that he has his reply, Jensen speeds up and effectively slides back into the race, overlooking Joe, for presently his objective this time is Pachenko. After the two of them unsuccessfully attempt to thrust each other off the track, Jensen drives ahead and takes the weapon's sewer vent offense rather than defense. This befuddles everybody since the weapons are at the front of the car, so Jensen shocks them by all of a sudden turning the car around and opening fire on Pachinko, whereas driving in reverse. After he's harmed the other car sufficient, he turns around once more and hits the smoke, causing Pachinko to crash against a concrete obstruction. At that point, Jensen stops his car and gets out to approach Pachinko and break his neck as exact retribution for his slaughtering his spouse. Between this and Joe choosing to alter his pilot within the center of the race, Hennessy decides it's the correct minute to discharge the thing she's been building all this time. A multi-weapon tanker truck called Man of War. This truck is incredibly powerful and rapidly catches up with the drivers, immediately killing two minor competitors. Since it belongs to the superintendent, it too has the good thing about being permitted interior the buildings, which lets it take an alternate route and show up at the front of the race. The Man of War gradually murders 14K's navigators sometime recently, snatching his car with chains and shooting at it until it detonates, which suggests as it were Jensen and Joe are left. There's no way they can overcome such a creature without a legitimate arrange, so Jensen inquires records to associate his communicator to Joe's car and they concur to work together. They flank the truck with their cars, doing their best to avoid any approaching assaults, and when a trapped sewer vent shows up before them, each of them hits it with two wheels, getting the four required to actuate it. This causes the tap to come up and the truck to crash against it. Presently, the moment organized of the race is over, and Jensen and Joe will be the as it were drivers making it to the third. Later within the evening, Joe comes over to Jensen's pit to point out his voice suspiciously sounds a part like Frank's, but he doesn't push for answers. In the meantime, Ulrich and Hennessy decide that they got to kill Jensen since the Frankenstein veil can still be worn by somebody else within the future. The taking after day, sometime recently the race begins. Ulrich puts a bomb beneath Jensen's car, whereas Hennessy distracts everybody with a speech about dashing being their life's reason. When she notices this may be the to begin with time somebody may win their flexibility with a fifth triumph, Jensen realizes that they continuously fix the races to dispose of anybody that could conceivably win for the fifth time, and that's why no one has ever accomplished it sometime recently, which suggests he won't be permitted to win nowadays either. Coach listens this conclusion and, once they're permitted to go back to the auto shop, chooses to appear Jensen exceptionally critical detail on a video of Grimm's passing. This gives him an idea for a range, and he inquires records to include a half-gallon save tank to his car sometime recently, getting to Joe's pit to ask him to collaborate with him once more. Whereas Jensen is changing into Frank's dress, Hennessy visits him to grant him his discharge papers and to create him an unused offer. If he wins, she wants him to remain in prison and proceed to be Frankenstein because the track is where has a place. She claims he isn't Daddy Fabric and an ex-con couldn't deliver his girl a great life, so choosing to remain would be a mind-blowing unselfish act of adore. Jensen goes to connect the race without giving her in reply however, but he does put away the discharge papers in his stash. When he gets in his car, Case concedes Hennessy to talk to her and inquired her to halt Jensen if he was almost to win, but he doesn't stress approximately it, as before long as the race starts, Ulrich starts controlling the sewer vents so they as it were actuate when Joe goes over them. He opens fire at Jensen as before long as he is able to, harming his back shield so much that Jensen chooses to drop it. In any case, Joe effectively avoids it, having as of now learned the trap from when Straight to the Point did the same. Hennessy activates a defense sewer vent for Jensen to require in order to keep the watchers interested, but Joe dispatches a rocket at it, wrecking it. He has more rockets to go and he dispatches them all at Jensen, who dodges them and lets them hit a wall. This wall was the one behind Grimm when he died, and it's as of now weakened because of that ancient blast. So nowadays Jensen and Joe have been calculating their assaults for them to arrive on the powerless spot, and presently the rockets hit it for a last blow that opens a gap and permits them to elude the prison. Angry, Hennessy closes the stream and sends all accessible cops after them sometime recently squeezing the bomb detonator, but nothing happens. Coach and his men had as of now expelled the bomb from the car and deactivated it. Joe and Jensen make it to the bridge, but the police cars are getting closer, so it's time to drag the another portion of his arrange. Jensen discharges that additional half-gallon save tank, which hits the cars behind them, causing a blast and a divider of fire that avoids any other cars from chasing them. Both convicts manage to cross the bridge entryways and take two diverse streets so that all the helicopters only follow Jensen, who is the foremost vital of the two. As Joe drives away, Case concurs to assist Jensen with the final portion of his plan since she owes it to Straight to the Point and Hennessy has already given her the release papers, so they'll be obliged to let her go. When they are passing by a few development cranes, Jensen hops off the car beneath their shadows and stows away in there, whereas Case takes his put at the wheel. She as it were gets to drive a couple of miles more. Sometime recently the helicopters stop her with a divider of fire, but when she comes out of the car with her hands up, she's wearing Frank's dress and cover. Since most individuals do not know approximately the personality trait, the cops capture her and take her back to the prison, allowing Jensen to elude and meet with Joe so they can board a cargo prepared together. Back within the jail workplaces, Ulrich says the evaluations are off the charts and praising endowments are as of now arriving. Hennessy opens the blessing box he's brought and finds the bomb Ulrich had put beneath Jensen's car, which at that point detonates, killing them both. Outside in the track, Coach can be seen having squeezed the detonator. 6 months afterward, Joe and Jensen have made a modern life in Santa Rosalia, Mexico. They work together as mechanics in their possessed auto shop, and Jensen has regained custody of his daughter. Case visits them as well after her release newspapers at last get prepared, bringing with her a hustling car for them to check out. Thank you for watching. See you on the next video.